Let's get into it. Soul Not for Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. Where is this clip of mine? There it is. Man, I think about this all the time. Let's talk a little bit about this.
My message to young men is don't allow this broken culture to send you a message that you're a bad person because you're a man, because you like to tell a joke, because you like to have a beer with your friends, or because you're competitive. The cultural message, and I think the president's and mine is the exact opposite, but our cultural message is I think that it wants to turn everybody into, whether male or female, into androgynous idiots who think the same, talk the same, and act the same. We actually think God made male and female for a purpose, and we want you guys to thrive as young men and as young women, and we're going to help with our public policy to make it possible to do that. My message to young
That message right there really got me thinking. There's this concept, not really a concept, just something I noticed in the world because before I was doing this podcast and having this be the thing I do, I was doing Uber Eats, and before that I was working in film and television, which feels like a warehouse job as you're doing it. When you're behind the scenes, I mean, there's nothing glamorous about it at all, especially in the position that I was in. It's a very low position, but before that was working in warehouses. I've always worked in distribution centers and warehouse freezers and Raymond reaches and cherry pickers and forklifts and motorized walkies and hand loading trucks and all of that stuff. I've always been just a blue collar working person with very rough hands that are getting so soft now. Look at that. I don't know, where are my calluses at? It's getting so soft. But I start to notice, he's talking about young men, the message to them, uh, don't be afraid of just being a guy. And, it's so hard to do that nowadays because I was just talking with somebody about this, but instead of using the term toxic masculinity, we just have these hyper men that are now the representatives. And we have Andrew Tate, who's a hyper man. He has Bugattis, and he actually says out loud, if you don't have a bunch of kids from different women, you're not a conqueror. And, just that whole persona that he has. And then on the other side of things, you know, you have these guys like Harry Styles who have like their nails painted and they're going to award shows wearing dresses, and you have Drake painting his nails. You have all these weird things, and it goes right to what he's saying, this androgynous weird thing that's happening on that side of masculinity. And again, that's not, I guess you could say that in a way it's not really masculine, but I just call it hyper. That's a hyper man. Like what do you do? Like, you're too hyper. Like, yeah, I cut my nails. I cut my nails. I make sure I'm good. I make sure there's no dirt under them. But I don't start painting them and figure out which colors go with, you know what I mean? Like, I don't do that, you know? I go like this with my eyebrows, but I don't go to somebody to pluck them, you know? Like, I'm just normal. I don't know. But they take it to a further extent, on both sides. And the reason that so many guys, I think, feel bad for just being a guy is because on both sides, they make you feel bad. If you're not someone who's all accepting, you feel like you're a bigot. And if you're not that hyper man with the nails painted and the androgynous and the more feminine and all of that stuff, if you're not that, they make you feel bad. And then also, if you don't have the Bugattis and all of that stuff and the rich and the all these girls, and you know how to do this, and you're living that single life, and you're not latched down by kids and blah blah, and both sides don't want to be latched down by kids. Oh gosh. Both sides don't want to be married. Both sides are like, no, 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 no. Leave me out of that completely. Both sides make you feel bad for just being normal, you know? for just having kids and a wife and trying to do right by your family and your community and striving to be a provider. They make you feel bad if you're just doing that, if you're just trying to get by. But most people are, you know? It's just I just find that interesting. I really wish there was I wish there was more of an outlet for guys like that are just regular, you know? They're just normal dudes. There isn't much for that. And again, we keep on pointing to when JD brings up the androgynous, that feminine weird stuff, doing eyeliner on your eyes and makeup and all of that, you know? But we never think of the other side. That side makes us feel just as bad. That side will make you feel just as isolated, you know? And it's weird because that's what's shown the most. So that's what we see the most. But what is actually normal is guys who are just regular, who are just wearing hoodies and they just got their camo hoodie on and they're just relaxing and they got their work shoes and they got shoes that they wear to go out and they only buy shoes once every 6 months or a year or longer, Like that's normal. You walk into your house, it's messy, the kids are around, that's normal. That's actually normal. And we're made to feel like that's not good enough. And it's crazy. And I'm not even touching on the woman's side of things. I mean, that's a whole other thing. They have the same thing going on. I always find that crappy to think about, that so many regular dudes are made to feel inadequate. You're either made to feel a bigot or you're made to feel like a, what do they call it, brokey? You're either a bigot or you're inadequate. You're either some racist misogynist or or you're just this deplorable broke guy who's like not doing nothing. It's weird. And then on top of it, those two hyper sides of things, they don't actually they push away from the nuclear family. They push you away from the nuclear family. They make you think that having a nuclear family, just having a wife, having kids, is not the thing to do. It's weird. It's very weird. Well, it's not weird. It's necessary. Why is Siri on? Why are you on, Siri? Oh, and then you turn off, so I was talking. Okay. Ridiculous. That really just happened. Just turned on. But yeah, they make you feel like having a family is not the thing to do. And I think there's a reason for that, of course. We can get real tinfoil Speedo or we can get mild tinfoil Speedo. but there's a reason they don't want you to have a family unit. In my opinion, I think it's because of isolation. It's easier to control people who are isolated. It's much easier if you have a family unit. You have something. You have strength. There's strength in the family unit. Like right now, I'm doing this video. I've been up all night. It's 5 a.m. If I was by myself, if I was going to bed and everything and I was all by myself, it would be pretty terrible for me. Eventually, because I've been doing this for like almost 3 years now, every day. And I'm making like 10 to 20 videos a week. It's a lot, right? But because I have a family, because I have a kid, because I have a wife, there's strength. And it's very hard to destabilize me. And it's very hard to demoralize me. Right? I have something to live for. I have something to work for. But when you see these other guys, these people that I'm talking about, they don't have that. They don't have that. they're alone. Most of them, you know. There's exceptions, of course, but they want you to be like that too. So even when I see these people who are claiming to be coaches, or they have these universities that you can attend, universities, it's like they're trying to have you do away with your solid years. I'm sure anybody out there that's like 40, 50, 60, like that 20 to 30, those years, you don't want to throw those away. And there's this machine of people, again, on both sides, where they want you to throw that away. They want you to throw it away to hedonistic behavior. They want you to throw it away to the grind. They don't want you to go and find what's meaningful, you know? And then you see some of those guys and they never find it. Like, I know guys who are my age, 40, and they're still random girls, and it's like, bro, you're almost 60. What are you doing? It's not the thing, man. You don't want that. And then you end up with no kids. You end up with no family. They're it seems like they are looking for a generation of men that have no kids, that have no family. And also, what it also does is, you don't have any kids. That's one. So you don't have legacy, real legacy. Because a lot of people think your cars and your riches and this and that, that's legacy. That's not legacy. Your children are your legacy. And what type of adults you prime them to be. Right? So there's that. You don't have that. And you don't have a woman to protect. And think about that when I say that. You are supposed to protect, we as a society are supposed to protect women. And we're all supposed to have one that we protect above all else. And when you join either one of those sides, that wild hyper lifestyle, you're not protecting any. You might be capable, because on one side, if you're like on the Tate side, you might be strong. So you could, if need be, but you don't. You don't have any that it's your job to protect. Like, my wife is my job to protect, no one else's. The second I married her. And she has a brother, she has a father and everything, but it's my job. That's it. It's just interesting, the things they try to the hoops they try to make us jump through. They try to, as a man, they try to make you jump through hoops to live your own life. Like, isn't that interesting? Like, it's your life. And again, it's your life. You don't have to do anything that I'm saying. This is an observation I have. But it's your life, and they're trying to make you jump through these hoops. Like, oh, you should be more feminine. You should be exploring sexuality. You should be open to painting nails or doing this or doing that. You should be open to all that. You should have more than one car, 2, 3 cars. You should have all these women on speed dial. You should be able to do this. You should be able to do that. It's like, I don't know. I just want my wife and my kid. And, and kids want more than one, want a bunch. But it's just interesting how there's no representation for that regular guy. My nose is so itchy, and I don't want to pick my nose in front of you guys. Okay? Again, speaking about being a normal guy. But, yeah, there's no representation. I don't get it. Why isn't there more representation of just normal people? Even still, in so many of the people that we think are like great, like even Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson is even in the aspect of like a hyper male. And yes, he has kids. And from what we can see, he is a father, right? But to be like him, I don't want to say it's unattainable, because you can do anything. You can learn things. But he is this larger than life intelligence, massively intelligent person. So it's not within reach. But there's so many men who do good things for their family and their community and themselves, and it is in reach. It's just not sexy. It's not sexy to be like, I make like 70 grand a year and things are kind of tight. We can't just do whatever we want, but we get to go on vacation for like 6 days a year. And, I have fun. We have a lot of fun on the weekends, the kids and baseball and this and that. And, my girl's in jujitsu now. It's kind of hard. Some things you got to sacrifice, but, we make it work. That's just not sexy, but it's so much more fulfilling. It's so much more fulfilling. And we're just not taught that. I find it very interesting. Because here's the thing, right? Here's the thing that I've been going over in my mind that's come up a few times. That theory. Sure, if you watch the show, you've heard me bring this up at least 4 times in the past 10 days. But the theory of the Matrix and how Zion, the place outside the Matrix, is actually still the Matrix, right? And that's why I bring up Jordan Peterson. And no shade to Jordan Peterson. I think he's great. I think he's fantastic. But all these things that they show us are still the, like Andrew Tate. He's like, oh, escape the Matrix. But he is the Matrix. You are still in the Matrix if you are going through his game, And then these other people are like, they're saying the same thing. These hyper males with their nails painted and stuff. They're like, you got to break free. Freedom. You need to be free. But they're still in the Matrix. They'll still have you in the Matrix. And even to a Jordan Peterson extent, you try to follow that or you try to be more like him. You're still in the Matrix. He's popping up in my head. It's like all these people that we see are still, they're not giving us, I guess it's not up to them, but I'll say what I have to say. They're not giving us the freedom that we're looking for. And the thing is, and this is always the deception. This is always the deception that they want from you. You already have the freedom. That simple life that's not so great, but it's really fulfilling and it's fun and you laugh with your wife. That is the freedom. That's the freedom. But it's so hard to convince people that that's it. Because of all these other, everybody's a billionaire. Tate was claiming he's a billionaire. So not. Jordan Peterson's making 8 figures a year doing what he's doing. Right? The guy who paints his nails, he's a rock star. And it's like that's what they give us to look at and idolize. I noticed this first in the black community because the black community only has like celebrities to look up to, because so many people are fatherless. So they look up to celebrities first. Right? And that sucks. Right? But now they have us all in that same programming. They try to get us all to feel that way, even if we do have fathers. How many people are taught to look down at their father, or push away from their father? And again, it's kind of like I don't know, there's levels to it, maybe as above, so below. I don't know how to explain it, but, they teach you to look down on the father. They teach you to veer away from being a father. They teach you to push away from your own father. And that is, doing that here is the microcosm, and there's a correlation to you doing it with God. You're taught it, it's like a oddly subliminal thing that if I tell you about Father God, you will also push away, and you will also try to not be like, and you will also try to not obey and dismiss the exact same way. I think the conditioning of all this runs really deep. And if you didn't put on your tinfoil Speedo, I can't help you. You're all wet now. I don't know what to do with you. Okay, go dry off. Right? You should know. Is said second you hear that, you should already be on. You know what I mean? You see the thumbnail? You should already be on. I've just been thinking about that. Sorry I don't have so many clips on this. I wouldn't even know where to jump to. I haven't been listening to Jordan Peterson as much. You know what I'm starting to realize? Not starting to realize. I've been saying it for a while, but never saying it out loud. That there's no more people to look up to. I say that to a good comedian friend of mine, and we always talk. And I always, as things come out, about everybody, I'm always like, there's no one to look up to, man. I always say that. There's no one to look up to. It's true. And unless you have a good dad. Going back to the topic of everything, if you got a dad, you should look up to your dad. You know? You know what else I noticed? Just to talk about fathers again. My buddy, one of my good friends, I want him to be a comedian. He's so funny. His dad passed away. My dad passed away too. It wasn't close. It was like years apart, but he said something to me. He goes, I realize how much my dad did now that he's gone. He's like, now I get it. Like, there's so many things that he did or was doing that I get now because he's a father now. And yeah, that's a real thing that happens. He's a father. He's dealing with his wife. He's dealing with his kid, and then all of a sudden it clicks. Like, oh, this is my dad was dealing with this. Those little things that you have inside you that you don't tell anybody about. You're like, my dad was dealing with this for sure. And it starts to make sense. The little things that they would do, or maybe the way they would be, or maybe how cold they would be, or how loving they would be, like whatever. It all starts to make more sense. I had that same thing as well, but I had it a different way because my dad wasn't around. And I remember as I was, because my drug of choice was weed, and as I was getting off weed, I would have moments where I didn't want to be around anybody. I was just so addicted. I'm like, I just want to be high. If you're dealing with that, you know what I mean. Like, you just want to be high. You just want to be left alone. I remember I was sitting there and somebody's trying to call me, and I'm like, oh, I just don't want to talk to anybody. I don't care. And it got to the point where it was not my wife. Well, my wife, yeah. Yeah. Were we married yet? I don't even know if we were married yet. I don't think we were. But yeah, my now wife. And it got to even to the point where I was like, ugh. Because she was like calling me. We lived together, but she was like calling me for something. And it clicked. I'm like, oh, this is what my dad was probably like. He probably would get, because his thing was alcohol. I was like, he'd probably get drunk and just didn't want to communicate with anybody. I was like, I'm like, I get that. I'm like, if I can't pull myself out of it, I'm like 40 more years of this. I'm like, I so understand where he was at, you know? And then I pulled myself out of it because I was like, I don't want to become like that, you know? So he gave me that lesson, oddly. Oh, man. Anyway, I've just been talking. I'm sorry. But it's 5:50 in the morning. I got to go to bed. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, and be thankful for your father, even if they were bad. And if you're normal, if you're a normal guy, good. Be a normal guy, man. Don't aspire. I don't want to say don't aspire to be anything. I don't want to say don't aspire to be extraordinary. But if you're a father and you're a husband and you're doing your best, you are extraordinary. You are already. Anyway, I'm out.